All right, y'all know it's praise and worship time, right? I said it's praise and worship time. Let us praise y'all. Look over to the person on the opposite side of you. Wave at them. Let them know that you're alive and ready to praise y'all. Let us praise y'all today. Let us praise y'all. Come on, Trav. You gotta come on and Tyler. Come on up front, brother. Everybody know Trav is back, right? I'll be glad to have him back. Shalom.
Incredible. the
got a roof. We don't need one. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3, go!
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. How we doing? Shabbat shalom. How's our Sabbath going? Awesome. Okay. All right. So today, I just wanted to go into a roll call of the righteous warriors throughout the history of the scriptures. We'll focus more into Judges, mostly in Judges, but I just wanted to go into a roll call of the righteous warriors. That's very seldom. That's very seldom talked about as a whole. And what does it take? Do we know what it takes to be a righteous warrior?
Yeah.
All right. What is the holy ruach made up of? What elements? Give me some.
Don't all speak at once. Wisdom, knowledge, understanding,
love, of course.
faith.
Faith. Yes. Faith. All right, we're going to open up with Hebrews 11 and verse 1.
Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. Now the faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of the things not seen.
Can we see Yah? No. Can't see him. But yet we believe in his word, and we believe in being diligent in trying in our efforts to try to keep it, right? All right, so we can't see Yah. Skip down to 32, verse 32.
Verse 32. And what shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, and of Jephthah, and of David, and also of Samuel, and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions.
Stop the mouths of lions. So this is one of the attributes to being a righteous warrior. To being righteous, but especially to being a righteous warrior, right? So here's another attribute. Go to Proverbs 8 and verse 13.
Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13. The fear of Ehud is to hate every evil, pride and arrogancy, and evil way, and the forward mouth do I hate.
Right. So in other words, all right, so the speaker is saying the fear of Yah is to hate evil, all right, pride and arrogancy. So a righteous man is going to hate these things, all right? Now, especially a righteous warrior, somebody that's out in the battlefield going to war every day under the auspices of the Heavenly Father is going to be operating in this ruach, okay? The fear of Yah is to hate evil, pride. How many, we know what pride is? Right? Yeah, as much as we talk about it, right? We know what arrogancy is, right? All right? The righteous man hate these things in every evil way, okay? Go to Deuteronomy 10 and verse 12.
Deuteronomy chapter 10 and verse 12. And now, Israel,
What doth Yahuwah your Elohim require of you, but to fear Yahuwah your Elohim, and to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul, to keep the commandments of Yahuwah and his statutes, which I command you this day for your good.
For your good. All right, so a righteous warrior is going to definitely always strive to keep Yahuwah's word, okay? And they're going to fear him by keeping his word. That's how they prove themselves, okay? So let's go to Exodus 15 and verse 3. All right, now, when it comes to warriors, all right, that spirit first comes from Yah. That spirit comes from Yah. All right, he's the one that make the decision whether we should go to war as a nation. All right, when it was time for us to go against the Amalekites because we was getting oppressed, he pushed the button, and we was the button men, our forefathers, when we was in the wilderness. All right, verse 3.
Exodus chapter 15 and verse 3. Yahuwah is a man of war. Yahuwah is his name.
Yahuwah is his name. Yahuwah is a man of war. Well, we know that he's a righteous warrior, of course. All right, he's not just killing because of somebody owe him a few dollars. No, when he see wickedness, he takes it out. Okay, when he see wickedness, the Amalekites was wicked, he took them out. All right. So we're gonna go into our first character study of a righteous warrior. So we're gonna deal with Abraham, right? So let's go to Genesis 12. At the top. Genesis 12 and verse 1.
Genesis chapter 12 and verse 1. Now Yahuwah had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will shew you. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth you. And in you shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed, as Yahuwah had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran.
Now, wait a minute. Abraham receiving this prophecy from the Most High, all right? He had been an idolater in the land of Earth. And listen, it's hard when you older to switch your ways. All right? Do we agree with that? It's very difficult when you older and you try to switch your ways. And he pulled Abram at this time, out of the land of Ur, where they was definitely practicing idolatry to the max. And he told him to go into the land of Canaan. And it show you the type of courage that Abram had, due to the fact that he actually listened. He showed that he had faith, and he gathered his household, and he got on the road and left and went to Canaan. All right, and that's big. All right, so go to Genesis 14 and 12. Let's see how Abraham showed himself as a warrior. All right, we already see that he had certain attributes like courage and faith, but let's see how he applied it to the battlefield. All right, go ahead.
Genesis chapter 14 and verse 12. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed.
Now real quick, this is talking about the war that was amongst the kings of Sodom and the kings of Gomorrah at this time. And they ended up taking Lot, right? Now watch this. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Aner, and they were confederate with Abram.
Right, so they was confederate with Abram, meaning they was willing to go with him. Watch this.
And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318 and pursued them unto Dan.
Now, so Abram, he had a small army with him, 318 men that was armed and ready for war. Now, why would he be armed and ready for war, right? Why would they be armed and ready for war? Okay, so let's go. Okay.
Verse 15, and he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot, and his goods, and the women also, and the people.
And he brought back all the people after the 318 servants that was trained in that household went up against the kings of Sodom. Right? 318. Now think about this. These kings ruled over their land. They had thousands of people. And these 318 went up and subdued them and brought back goods and spoil along with the people. Okay? Go ahead.
And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter, Chedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him at the valley of Shavah, which is the king's dale.
Right.
And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of Elohim Most High, Elohim, El. And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High, Elohim, possessor of Shamayim and earth. And he blessed him, and blessed be the Most High, Elohim, which have delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all. And the king of Sodom said unto Abram, Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself. And Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have lift up mine hands unto Yahuwah the Most High, El, the possessor of Shamayim and the earth, that I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abraham rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the men which went with me, Aner and Esco and Mamre, let them take their portion.
Right. So those that aided him in him going to receive Lot, to get Lot back and to get the spoil, he let them keep their stuff, but he gave everything back, showing you that he was a man of his word, and showing them that he was not a thief. He wasn't all about spoil. His ruach was different. He wasn't all about money. All right. In today's times, it would be money, right? All right. So let's show you the spirit of Abraham, right? So we're going to go to our next man, which is Moses. Okay. So we're going to go to Exodus 2 and verse 10. We're also going to go into Josephus and see how Moses went to war for Egypt before he was actually chased out for slewing the Egyptian, right? All right, so 2 and verse 10.
Exodus chapter 2 and verse 10.
Read the 12.
And the children grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, Because I have drew him out of water. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren, and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian, smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he took this way and that, and he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
Hid him in the sand. Now, what I'm about to go into in Josephus shows that at the time when the Egyptians was being oppressed by the Ethiopians, that Moses aided them and the Most High had told all their oracles, basically their sorcerers, to use Moses in the war. Okay? All right, so I want you to go to Antiquities of the Jews and Josephus, book 2 and chapter 10. book 2, chapter 10, section 241. Yep.
This is the book of Josephus, book 2, chapter 10, section 241. The Egyptians, under this sad oppression, betook themselves to their oracles and prophecies. And when the Most High had given them this counsel to make use of Moses the Hebrew and take his assistance, the king commanded his daughter to produce him, that he might be general of their army. Upon which, when she had made him swear that he would do him no harm, she delivered him to the king, and supposed his assistance would be of great advantage to them. She withal reproached the priests, who, when they had before admonished the Egyptians to kill him, was not ashamed now to own their want of his help. So Moses, at the persuasion both of Thermuthis and the king himself, cheerfully undertook the business, and the sacred scribes of both nations were glad, those of the Egyptians, that they should at once overcome their enemies by his valor. And by the same piece of management, Moses would be slain. But those of the Hebrews, that they should escape from the Egyptians, because Moses was to be their general. But Moses prevented the enemies, and took and led his army before those enemies were apprised of his attacking them. For he did not march by the river, but by the land, where he gave a wonderful demonstration of his sagacity. There we go. For when the ground was difficult to be passed over, because of the multitude of serpents, which it produced in vast numbers, and indeed is singular in some of those productions which other countries do not breed, and yet such as were worse than the others in power and mischief, and an unusual fierceness of sight, some of which ascend out of the ground unseen, and also fly by the air, and do come upon men at unawares, and do them a mischief. Moses invented a wonderful stratagem to preserve the army safe and without hurt. For he had baskets like unto arks of sedge, and filled them with ives.
Yeah, those are birds. So he filled them with birds.
And carried them along with them, which animal is the greatest enemy to the serpents imaginable.
Right, so he used the land that was the most difficult, because the Ethiopians wouldn't suspect him taking this land. And so he took these birds, and those birds was enemies to the serpent. So that he used those birds to tame the serpent. So while the soldiers marched along this difficult path. Go ahead.
For they fly from them when they come near, and as they fly, they were caught and devoured by them, as if it were done by the hearts. But the ives are tame creatures, and only enemies to the serpentine kind. But about these ives I say no more at present, since the Greeks themselves are not unacquainted with this sort of bird. As soon, therefore, as Moses was come to the land which was the breeder of these serpents, he let loose the ives, and by their means repelled the serpentine kind, and used them for his assistance before the army came upon that ground. And when he had therefore proceeded thus on his journey, he came upon the Ethiopians before they had expected him, and joining battle with them, he beat them.
See, they took the road that the Ethiopians didn't expect. All right, and with the strategy that he put in place, they was able to surprise the Ethiopians. All right, showing you that the Most High has strategy when it comes to war. All right, and it also wanted to, in this case, Moses, it seemed like was chosen at this time, seeing as how when they went before the oracles and their sorcerers, they told the king or the Pharaoh to use Moses. So Moses, was that light to them winning the war against the Ethiopians. Go ahead.
Now when the Egyptian army had once tasted this prosperous success by the means of Moses, they did not slacken their diligence, insomuch that the Ethiopians were in danger of being reduced to slavery, and all sorts of destruction. And at length they retired to Saba, which was a royal city of Ethiopia, which Cambyses afterwards named Meor, after the name of his own sister. The place was to be besieged with very great difficulty, since it was both encompassed by the Nile quite round, and the other rivers, Astapus and Astaboris, made it a very difficult thing for such as attempted to pass over them. For the city was situate in a retired place, and was inhabited after the manner of an island, being encompassed with a strong wall, and having the rivers to guard them from their enemies, and having great ramparts between the wall and the rivers, insomuch that when the waters come with the greatest violence, it can never be drowned, which ramparts make it next to impossible for even such as are gotten over the rivers to take the city.
So we know that nothing is impossible for Yahuwah, right? And look how he allowed Moses to overtake this impossible nation, all right, through the strategy that he had, okay? So I wanted to go into that to show you that Moses, because they don't talk too much about Moses in the 66 being a warrior, but we know, of course, the Most High was dealing with him, and Josephus goes into that. Next up is Joshua. So we're going to go to Exodus 17 and verse 8. Exodus 17.
Exodus chapter 17 and verse 8. Then came Amalek and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And Moses said unto Joshua, choose us out men and go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses had said to him and fought with Amalek. And Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill.
Now this is Joshua being groomed and proving himself, right? We know Joshua, after Moses passes away, is going to be that chosen man to take the children of Israel over the Red Sea into the actual land. All right? Go ahead, keep reading.
Verse 11. And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hands, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands were heavy, and they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat thereon, and Aaron and Hur stayed his hands, and the one on the one side and the other on the other side, and his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua discomfited Amalek and his people with the edge of the sword. And Yahuwah said unto Moses, write this for a memorial in a book, and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under Shamayim.
From under Shamayim. Now, we know that Joshua had many wars, because in order for him to clear out the land and for the children of Israel to live in the land, they first must get the first inhabitants out of the land, so they had to go to war. So this is one battle that he had, but I went into only one other battle for time's sake, because we'll be all day talking about the different wars that Joshua went into. I mean, his whole book is dedicated to getting the children of Israel into the land and getting them established in the land, but through war. So Joshua 8 and verse 1.
Joshua chapter 8 and verse 1. And Yahuwah said unto Joshua, fear not, neither be thou dismayed. Take all the people of war with you, and arise, go up to Ai. And see, I have given it into thine hand, the king of Ai, and his people, and his city, and his land.
In the eyes of the Most High, this was already done for the Most High. All Joshua had to do was go according to plan. All right, showing you that if we remain faithful to the Most High, that anything that we seek to do we will be able to do as long as we remain obedient to him. Go ahead.
And thou shalt do to Ai as her king, as thou didst unto Jericho and her king. Only the spoil thereof and the cattle thereof shall you take for a prey unto yourselves. Lay thee an ambush for the city behind. So Joshua arose and all the people of war to go up to Ai, and Joshua chose out 30,000 mighty men of valor and sent them away by night. And he commanded them, saying, Behold, you shall lie in wait against the city, even behind the city. Go not very far from the city, but be ye all ready. And I and all the people that are with me will approach unto the city, and it shall come to pass when they come out against us at the first that we will flee before them. For they will come out after us till we have drawn them from the city. For they will say, They flee before us as at the first. Therefore we will flee before them. Then ye shall rise up from the ambush and siege upon the city, for Yahuwah your Elohim will deliver it into your hands. And it shall be, when ye have taken the city, that ye shall set the city on fire, according to the commandments of Yahuwah shall ye do. See, I have commanded you.
Go down to verse 24.
Verse 24. And it came to pass, when Israel had made an end of slaying all the inhabitants of Ai in the field in the wilderness, wherein they chased them, and when they were all fallen on the edge of the sword until they were consumed, that all the Israelites returned unto Ai and smote it with the edge of the sword. And so it was that all that fell on that day, both men and women, were 12,000, even all the men of Ai. For Joshua drew not his hand back, wherewith he stretched out the spear, until he had utterly destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai.
So he literally destroyed all the inhabitants of Ai, and he did not stop slaying until they all was completely destroyed. Right? Go ahead.
Only the cattle and the spoil of that city Israel took for a prey unto themselves, according unto the word of Yahuwah which he had commanded Joshua. And Joshua burnt Ai and made it a heap forever, even a desolation unto this day.
So it's pretty much like Sodom, right? Go ahead, read verse 29.
And the king of Ai he hanged on a tree until evening tide. And as soon as the sun was down, Joshua commanded that they should take his carcass down from the tree and cast it at the entering in of the gate of the city, and raise thereon a great heap of stones that remain up unto this day.
Right. So showing you that Joshua, again, is displaying this, that Yahuwah, once he give the word, his word is not void. It's showing also that as long as you stay obedient, anything is possible under the auspices of the Father. All right. Joshua likewise came with a strategy and decided to, just like Moses, and he used it to overtake Ai. And remember, these people is more in number than the children of Israel. All right. The children of Israel, in regards to number, they're not the biggest nation. So when they overtaking these, when they in the land of Canaan and they doing this, these people, they have thousands more people than the children of Israel. All right, we're gonna get to the story of Gideon, but we understand that Gideon overtook their enemy with 300 men because the Ruach was working with them. Right. So next up is Othniel. All right, Judges, the first chapter in the 10th verse. Chapter 1 and verse 10.
Judges chapter 1 and verse 10. And Judah went against the Canaanites that dwelt in Hebron. Now the name of Hebron before was called that name. And they slew Shishah, the Aramean, and Talmah, and from thence he went against the inhabitants of Debir, and the name of Debir before it was that name. And Caleb said, he that smiteth that name, and taketh it to him, will I give Achsah my daughter to wife. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother.
This Othniel is Caleb's nephew. Now we know that Caleb and Joshua were the only two from that first generation that came out of Egypt, and they was deemed righteous, and they was allowed to go into the land. So what you see now is an older Caleb now in the land, and he is they're now making an effort to still clear out the land from the earlier inhabitants. Okay, and he's saying this: I will give my daughter to the man that overtake Kirjath Sefer.
That name.
Right? So I want y'all to pay attention to this. This is just a little side note, just to see how well we know Torah, right? Read verse 13 again.
Verse 13. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it, and he gave him Achsah, his daughter, to wife.
Now, wait a minute. If we dealing with a Western state of mind, now this is just a side note, but if we were dealing with a Western state of mind, we would think that that's actually incest. Is this incest? Listen, I'm trying to show y'all. Caleb gave his daughter to his nephew. Is that incest? No, it's his nephew. No, that's his brother's younger son. Yeah. Right. So is that incest? It's not incest according to the Torah. See, in Leviticus, and you can find that in Leviticus 18. All right. Leviticus 18 pretty much gives you an outline of what fornication is. The different types of fornication. You're talking about incest. You're talking about homosexuality, and you're talking about bestiality. Yes. So now it's different breakdowns of what incest is. Like, it give you the different relationships. That's an abomination in Leviticus 18. I just wanted to point that out because when I first saw that, I thought like it was incest, but it's not according to Leviticus 18. But if you're dealing with a Western state of mind, Western state of mind, pretty much this will throw you off. Okay, go to Judges 3 and verse 5. Still dealing with Othniel.
Judges chapter 3 and verse 5. And the children of Israel dwelt among the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And they took their daughters to be their wives, and gave their daughters to their sons, and served the Elohims.
So the children of Israel was going off at this time. All right, they started to commit idolatry. They're doing something else, like they're mixing in with these nations that they were supposed to chase out. They were supposed to have no dealings with these nations, these particular nations. All right, go ahead.
And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of Yahuwah, and forgat Yahuwah, the Elohim, and served Baalim and the groves. Therefore the anger of Yahuwah was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hand of that name, king of Mesopotamia. And the children of Israel served that name 8 years. And when the children of Israel cried unto Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised up a deliverer to the children of Israel, who delivered them, even Othniel, the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother.
See, now wait a minute. So look how merciful Yahuwah is. All right, they start serving, they get in this land, they freshly in there, and they now starting to commit idolatry already. After being in the wilderness for 40 years, learning the laws and the commandments from Moses, then they now start to commit idolatry, and they freshly in the land. All right, and look how merciful the Most High is when He raised up a deliverer to get them out of trouble.
Hold on. Side note. Can somebody say this name for me?
Is that our Hebrew teacher? Oh, that was Mark right here. What you say? Where is it?
It's in there.
Say it
again.
She says it's Hushan, I say it's Trushan.
Tomato, tomato.
All right, say the whole thing one more time.
Kushan Rishatayim.
Shushan Rishatayim.
Yeah. Kushan. It's Kushan Rishatayim. Yeah. Or Rishatayim.
Kushan with the thing. Okay. Kushan with the thing. I got it.
Hey, so he can't say that name no more.
Kushan with the thing. And the land had rest 40 years. And Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died.
Hold on. Start back at verse 10 and read down to verse 11.
And the Ruach of Ehud came upon him.
Yeah, I wanted to focus. I wanted to make sure I touched that part of verse 10. And the Ruach came up on Othniel. Alright? So whenever the Most High raised up a warrior to deliver the children of Israel out of captivity, they was dealing with the Holy Ruach. Alright? And we know what the Holy Ruach is made up of. It's made up of many different elements. Alright? So go ahead.
And the Ruach of Yahuwah came upon him, and he judged Israel and went out to war. And Yahuwah delivered Kushan with the Theum, king of Mesopotamia, into his hands, and his hands prevailed against Kushan with the Theum. And the land had rest 40 years, and Othniel, the son of Kenaz, died.
And Othniel died. Alright, so we know that the Most High raised up Othniel, which was the nephew of Caleb, and he became the judge over the whole land, and it was righteous, and it had rest 40 years. Right? So next up is we're going to slide down to Judges 3 and 12, and we're talking about Ehud now.
Verse 12. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah strengthened Eglon, the king of Moab, against Israel, because they had done evil in the sight of Yahuwah. And he gathered unto him the children of Ammon and Amalek, and went and smote Israel, and possessed the city of palm trees. So the children of Israel served Eglon, the king of Moab, 18 years. But when the children of Israel cried unto Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Gerah, a Benjamite, a man left-handed. And by him the children of Israel sent presents unto Eglon, the king of Moab. But Ehud made him a dagger, which he had 2 edges of a cubit's length, and he did gird it under his raiment upon his right thigh. And he brought the present unto Eglon, king of Moab, and Eglon was a very fat man. And when he had made an end to offer the present, he sent away the people that bare the present. But he himself turned again from the quarry that were by Gilgal, and said, I have a secret errand unto thee, O king, who said, keep silent. And all that stood by him went out from him. And Ehud came unto him, and was sitting in a summer parlor, which he had for himself alone. And Ehud said, I have a message from Elohim. I have a message from Elohim unto thee. And he arose out of his seat. And Ehud put forth his left hand under his left hand, and took the dagger from his right thigh, and thrust it into his belly.
So he thrust it into the king of Moab's belly. All right, now, how many of us seen, I guess it's appropriate, we can bring this up. How many of us seen Godfather 2?
That same thing made me think that.
Godfather 2, right? What happened? Because Andolini, the father of Don Corleone, he was murdered. Then he left Corleone and went into the Americas. He came back for revenge, all right? But he went to him in peace, as if he was going to him to ask permission to start a business. And then when he least expected it, he stuck a dagger right into his heart and killed him. And this is what that reminds me of. But in righteousness, because we know that they was operating in wickedness, right?
Now, y'all notice it said that this man was, what-handed was he? Left-handed. Did that stick out to y'all? So why y'all didn't ask?
Save a question.
Y'all would have asked me, though, right?
Hey, you know another thing? Look out, city with palm trees. How many areas got palm trees? Other than California.
This whole year,
I'm that now, you know.
so yeah, we'll come back to this.
Read down to 30, so I think
21. And Ehud put forth his left hand and took the dagger from his right thigh and thrust it into his belly. And the haft also went in after the blade.
That's the handle. It was a double-edged blade. So imagine the handle is in the middle of the two blades, and he stuck it in. Go ahead.
And the haft also went in after the blade, and the fat closed upon the blade, so that he could not draw the dagger out of his belly, and the dirt came out. Then Ehud went forth through the porch and shut the doors of the parlor upon him and locked them. And when he was going out, his servants came, and when they saw that, behold, the doors of the parlor were locked, they said, surely he covered his feet in his summer chamber. And they tarried till they were ashamed. And behold, he opened not the door of the parlor. Therefore they took a key and opened them, and behold, their Lord was fallen down dead on the earth.
So they was calling for their Lord and probably banging on the door, and he wouldn't come and open the door. So they finally had to go in and see what was going on. And then that's when they saw their king slain. Go ahead.
And Ehud escaped while they tarried, and passed beyond the quarries, and escaped unto Serath. And it came to pass, when he was come, that he blew a trumpet in the mountain of Ephraim, and the children of Israel went down with him from the mount, and he before them. And he said unto them, follow after me, for Yahuwah have delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your hands. And they have went down after him, and took the fords of Jordan towards Moab, and suffered not a man to pass over. And they slew of Moab at that time about 10,000 men, all lusty, and all men of valor.
This is all fat. Lusty means fat. All right, just in case we don't know, lusty means fat. Go ahead. Everybody don't know.
And all men of valor, and there escaped not a man. They couldn't run. So Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel, and the land had rest 80 years.
The land had rest 80 years. All right, under Ehud. All right. So next up, we got Deborah and Barak. All right, Deborah and Barak. Judges 4. Look, I just want y'all to pay attention. Time and time again, we have the Most High with so much mercy, because, see, these wounds that they receiving is self-inflicted. They going into captivity because of themselves and them being disobedient. All right, so I want y'all to see the mercy, how merciful Yahuwah is in all of this, with him raising up deliverers to get us out of these captivities. All right. So we're about to go into Deborah and Barak. Judges 4 verse 1.
Judges chapter 4 and verse 1. And the children of Israel again did evil in the sight of Yahuwah when Ehud was dead.
So again, they did evil in the sight of Yahuwah. Again. All right? Pay attention to that mercy. Go ahead.
And Yahuwah sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, that reigned in Hazor, the captain of whose host was Sisera, which dwelt in Harosheth of the Gentiles. And the children of Israel cried unto Yahuwah, for he had 900 chariots of iron, and 20 years he mightily oppressed the children of Israel. And Deborah, the prophetess, the wife of that person, she judged Israel at that time, and she dwelt under the palm trees of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in Mount Ephraim of the children of Israel, and came up to her for judgment. And she sent and called Barak, the son of Abnon, out of that place, and said unto him, Have not Yahuwah Elohim of Israel commanded, saying, Go and draw toward Mount Tabor, and take with thee 10,000 men of the children of Naphtali and the children of Zebulun, and I will draw unto thee to the river of Kishon Sisera, the captain of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his multitudes, and I will deliver him into thine hand. And Barak said unto her, If thou wilt go with me, then will I go. But if thou wilt not go with me, then will I not go. And she said, I will surely go with you, notwithstanding the journey that thou takest shall not be for thine honor, for Yahuwah shall sell Sisera into thy hands of the woman. And Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh.
So Barak is showing lack of courage in order to deliver his people out of this bondage, which they was mightily oppressed. And you have Deborah saying that the honor will go to a woman. All right, I want to show y'all something. Let's keep reading. Do you think so? Do we believe that this honor went to Deborah? I mean, it ultimately goes to Yah, of course. But when she said this honor goes to a woman, huh? We're gonna see. Let's go ahead.
Verse 10. And Barak called Zebulun and Naphtali to Kadesh, and he went up with 10,000 men at his feet, and Deborah went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite, which was of the children of Hobab, the father-in-law of Moses, had severed himself from the Kenites, and pitched his tent unto the plain of Zanim, which is by Kadesh. And they shewed Sisera that Barak, the son of Abnon, was going up to Mount Tabor. And Sisera gathered together all his chariots, even 900 chariots of iron, and all the people that were with him, from Harosheth of the Gentiles unto the river of Kishon. And Deborah said unto Barak, Up, for this is the day in which Yahuwah hath delivered Sisera into thine hands. Is not Yahuwah gone out before thee? So Barak went down from Mount Tabor, 10,000 men after him. And Yahuwah discomfited Sisera and all his chariots and all his hosts with the edge of the sword before Barak, so that Sisera lighted down off his chariots and fled away on his feet. But Barak pursued after the chariots and after the host unto Harosheth of the Gentiles, and all the hosts of Sisera fell upon the edge of the sword, and there was not a man left.
So they destroyed all the men, with the exception of Sisera, who fled away. Now watch this. Let's go ahead.
Howbeit Sisera fled away on his feet to the tents of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, for there was peace between Jabin, the king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite.
The Kenite. So these was Midianites. In other words, that word Kenite is in reference to the Midianites that came into the land with the children of Israel. Remember Jethro's Jephthah, who was Moses' father-in-law. That's these people. Okay, go ahead.
And Jael went out to meet Sisera and said unto him, Turn in, my master, turn in to me, fear not. And when he had turned in unto her into the tent, she covered him with a mantle. And he said unto her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. And she opened a bottle of milk and gave him drink and covered him. And again he said unto her, Stand in the door of the tent, and it shall be, when any man do come and inquire of thee, and say, Is there any man here? That thou shalt say, No. Then Jael, Heber's wife, took a nail of the tent, and took an hammer in her hand, and went softly unto him, and smote the nail in his temple, and fastened it into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary, so he died.
So he died. So Jael is the one that actually killed this king, right? Read down to verse 24.
And behold, Barak pursued Sisera. Jael came out to meet him and said unto him, Come, and I will shew thee the man whom thou seekest. And when he came into her tent, behold, Sisera lay dead, and the nail was in his temples. So Elohim subdued on that day Jabin, the king of Canaan, before the children of Israel, and the hand of the children of Israel prospered and prevailed against Jabin, the king of Canaan, until they had destroyed Jabin, the king of Canaan.
Go to Judges 5 and 24.
Judges chapter 5, verse 24. Blessed above women shall Jael, the wife of Heber, the Kenite, be. Blessed shall she be above women in the tent. And he asked water, and she gave him milk. She brought forth butter in a lordly dish. She put her hands to the nail, and her right hand to the workman's hammer. And with the hammer she smote Sisera. She smote off his head when she had pierced and stricken through his temples. At her feet he bowed, he fell, he lay down at her feet. He bowed, he fell, where he bowed, there he fell down dead.
There he fell down dead. All right, so who got the credit for killing Sisera and Jael? Jael. Often people focus on Deborah, which she definitely was a big part of it, but it was Jael that really helped to deliver the children of Israel as well. And she's a Gentile. And she's a Gentile. So
Keep on talking, I would be Jael.
Next, we got Gideon. All right, so go to Judges 6 and 11. Judges 6 and 11.
You better watch out.
6 and verse 11. Read to 16.
Judges chapter 6, verse 11. And there came a Malachim of Yahuwah, and sat under an oak which was in Ophrah, that pertaineth unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. And the Malachim of Yahuwah appeared unto him, and said unto him, Yahuwah is with you, thou mighty man of valor.
So here go Yahuwah again, choosing a judge, all right, and letting him know that he's with him, all right. And now Gideon is from the tribe of Manasseh. Go ahead.
And Gideon said unto him, O my master, if Yahuwah be with us, why then is all this befallen us? And there be all miracles which our father told us, saying, Did not Yahuwah bring us up from Egypt? But now Yahuwah hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. And Yahuwah looked upon him and said, Go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent you?
Have not I sent thee? trying to encourage Gideon, right? Go ahead.
And he said unto him, O my master, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am of the least in my father's house.
I am the least in my father's house, showing you the type of people that the Most High raised up. He'll raise up the least. All right. Of course, we know that happened with David as well. Right. Go ahead.
And Yahuwah said unto him, Surely I will be with you, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. And he said unto him, If now.
Hold on. Go to verse 32.
Verse 32. Therefore on that day he called him Zerubbabel, saying, Let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. But the Ruach of Yahuwah came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abzar was gathered after him.
Right. Go to Judges 7:1.
Judges chapter 7 and verse 1. Then Zerubbabel, who is Gideon, and all the people that were with him rose up early and pitched beside the well of Herod, so that the host of the Midianites were on the north side of them by the hill of Moreh in the valley. And Yahuwah said unto Gideon, The people that are with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into your hand, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, Mine own hand hath saved me.
So he wanted to show his glory, and too many people that was in the army, that won't be able to, the Most High won't be able to show his glory with all these people. So watch what he do.
Verse 3. Now therefore go to proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, Whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there return of the people 22,000, and there remain 10,000. And Yahuwah said unto Gideon, The people are yet too many. Bring them down into the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be that of whom I say unto you, This shall go with thee, the same shall go over with you. And of whosoever I say unto you, This shall not go with you, the same shall not go. So he brought down the people into the water, and Yahuwah said unto Gideon, Every one that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, every one that boweth down upon his knees to drink. And the number of them that lapped, putting their hands to their mouth, were 300 men. But the rest of the people bowed down upon their knees to drink water.
Now what does it mean? Let's focus on this for a second. When you lap as a dog lap, now you are able to watch, right? But if you get down on your knees and you put your face in the water, you're not alert. You can't see the enemy coming. All right. Likewise, in the spiritual battle, all right, we have to always, of course, like Ephesians, the 6th chapter is telling us to wear that spiritual armor. All right. This right here is more talking about the physical and them being ready for war when the enemy comes. But think about when we get oppressed by Satan on all fronts. All right. We must always have our spiritual armor on. All right, and be alert. All right, and these people with them lapping like a dog lap is showing that they ready for war. And so let's keep reading.
Verse 7. And Yahuwah said unto Gideon, By the 300 men that lapped will I save you, and deliver the Midianites into thine hand, and let all the other people go, every man unto his place. So the people took victuals in their hands and their trumpets, and he sent all of the rest of Israel, every man into his tent, and retained those 300 men. And the host of Midian was beneath him in the valley. And it came to pass the same night that Yahuwah said unto him, Arise, get thee down unto the host, for I have delivered it into thine hand. But if thou fear to go down, go thou with Purah, thy servant, down to the host, and thou shalt hear what they say. And afterwards shall thine hand be strengthened to go down unto the host. Then went he down with Purah, he was afraid. His servant said unto the outside of the armed men that were in the host, and the Midianites and the Amalekites and all the children of the east lay along the valley like grasshoppers for multitude, and their camels were without number as the sand by the sea side for multitude. And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellows, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came into a tent, and smote it that it fell, and overturned it that the tent lay along. And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else save the word of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hands have Elohim delivered Midianite and all the host. And it was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel, and said, Arise, for Yahuwah have delivered into your hands the host of Midian. And he divided the 300 men into 3 companies.
Remember, now hold on. Remember, they have thousands of people laying in wait. All these men from the east. The Midianites, the Amalekites, and many from the east that's getting ready to go up against the children of Israel, who have 300 people. All right, go ahead.
And he divided the 300 men into the 3 companies. And he put a trumpet in every man's hands with an empty pitcher, and lamps within the pitchers. And he said unto them, Look on me, and do likewise. And behold, when I come to the outside of the camp, it shall be that, as I do, so shall you do. When I blow with the trumpet, and all that are with me, then blow ye the trumpets also on every side of the camp, and say, The sword of Yahuwah and of Gideon. So Gideon and the 100 men that were with him came unto the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch, and they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 300 companies blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers, and held the lamps in their left hands and the trumpets in their right hands to blow withal. And they cried, The sword of Yahuwah and of Gideon. And they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the host ran and cried and fled.
Yeah, see, this host was more in number, but with them making so much noise, it scared them, and they crept up on them, and so they didn't know where it came from. All right, go ahead.
22. And the 300 blew the trumpets, and Yahuwah set every man sword against his fellow, even throughout all the host. And the host fled to that place in Zerah, and to the borders of that place unto Tabbath. And the men of Israel gathered themselves together out of Naphtali, and out of Asher, and out of all Manasseh, and pursued after the Midianites. And Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim, saying, Come down against the Midianites, and take before them the waters unto that place, and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together, and took the waters unto that place and Jordan. And they took 2 princes of the Midianites, Orab and Zeb, and slew Orab, and put the rock Orab and Zeb they slew, and the winepress of Zeb, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Orab and Zeb to Gideon on the other side of the Jordan.
All right, so you see how the Most High raised up Gideon. He chose out of 22,000 men, 300 men was chosen to go out against thousands of men. All right, showing you how glorious the Father is. Go to Judges 8 and 10. Still talking about Gideon.
Judges chapter 8 and verse 10. Now Zebah and Zalmunna were in Karkor, and their host with them about 15,000 men, all that were left of all the hosts of the children of the east. For there fell 120,000 men that drew the sword. And Gideon went up by the way of them that dwelt in tents on the east of Nobah of that place, and smote the host, for the host was secure. And when Zebah and Zalmunna fled, he pursued after them, and took the 2 kings of Midian, Zebah and Zalmunna, and discomfited all the host. And Gideon and the son of Joash returned from the battle before the sun was up.
Okay, go slide down to verse 18.
Verse 18. Then said he unto Zebah and Zalmunna, what manner of men were they whom ye slew at Tabor? And they answered, as thou art, so were they, each one resembling the children of a king. And he said, they were my brethren, even the sons of my mother, as Ehud liveth. If ye had saved them alive, I would not slay you.
So he will have mercy on them if they would have slain his brothers. All right, go ahead.
And he said unto Jephthah, his firstborn, up and slay them. But the youth drew not his sword, for he feared, because he was yet a youth. Then Zebah and Zalmunna said, rise thou and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew Zebah and Zalmunna, and took away the ornaments that were on the camels' necks.
Go to verse 28.
Thus was Midian subdued before the children of Israel, so that they lifted up their heads no more. And the country was in quietness 40 years in the days of Gideon.
The country was in quietness 40 years after the days of Gideon. In the days of Gideon. All right. Next up is Jephthah, Judges 11.
Judges chapter 11.
Read down to verse 11.
Now Jephthah the Gileadite was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of an harlot. And Gilead begat Jephthah, and Gilead's wife bare him a son, and his wife's sons grew up, and they thrust out Jephthah, and said unto him, thou shalt not inherit any of our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman.
So they hated their brother because they didn't share the same mother. Now watch how the tables turn when they actually need him. Watch this.
Then Jephthah fled from his brethren, and dwelt in the land of Tob. And there was gathered vain men to Jephthah, and went out with him. And it came to pass in the process of time that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. And it was so that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, that the elders of Gilead went to fetch Jephthah out of the land of Tob.
Now they need him because they're getting oppressed by the children of Ammon. All right, go ahead.
And they said unto Jephthah, come and be our captain, that we might fight with the children of Ammon. And Jephthah said unto the elders of Gilead, did not you hate me, and expel me out of my father's house? And why are you come unto me now, when you are in distress? And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, therefore we turn again to you now, that thou mayest go with us and fight against the children of Ammon, and be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. And Jephthah said unto the elders of Gilead, if you bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, and the Ehud deliver them before me, shall I be your head. And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, Ehud be witness between us, if we do not so according to thy words. Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and captain over them. Jephthah uttered all his words before Ehud in Mizpah.
Slide down to verse 29. So the children of Israel now need Jephthah because they getting oppressed by the children of Ammon. All right, and they didn't show brotherly love, but he still forgave them, and this shows you the type of spirit that a righteous man, especially a righteous warrior, should have. Forgiveness definitely have to be in our hearts. I did a children's lesson earlier today talking about forgiveness. We have to forgive. We can't get into the kingdom without forgiving. He forgave his brothers, all right, even though they cast them off. All right, so go ahead.
Verse 29. Then the Ruach of Ehud came unto Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead.
Hold on, the what?
The Ruach of Ehud came upon Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead.
So the Holy Spirit came upon Jephthah as he was getting ready to go out to war. All right, I just wanted to point that out because every time the Holy Spirit is coming up over these leaders and guiding them, and we know that when they go on to war, it's in righteousness, it's to defend their nation. So go ahead.
And Manasseh, and passed over Mizpah of Gilead, and from Mizpah of Gilead, and he passed over unto the children of Ammon. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto Ehud, and said, If thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the children of Ammon shall surely be Ehud's, and I will offer it upon for a burnt offering. So Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Ehud delivered them into their hands, and he smote them from Aroer, even till thou comest to Menith, even 20 cities unto the plain of the vineyard, with a very great slaughter. Thus the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. And Jephthah came to Mizpeh unto his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and dances, and she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass, when he saw her, that he rent his clothes, and said, Alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low. Thou art one of them that troubled me, for I have opened my mouth unto Ehud, and I cannot go back.
So he made a vow for his daughter to Ehud that he will offer her up to him. Right? So go to Judges 12:1.
Remember, it's not smart to vow.
Yes. Let your yea be yea, let your nay be nay. Judges 12 and read down to verse 7.
Judges chapter 12, verse 1. And the men of Ephraim gave themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephthah, Wherefore passest thou over to fight against the children of Ammon, and didst not call us to go with you? We will burn thine house upon thee with fire. And Jephthah said unto them, I and my people were at a great strife with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, you delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that you delivered me not, I put my life in my hands, and passed over against the children of Ammon, and Ehud delivered them into my hands. Wherefore then are you come up unto me this day to fight against me? Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead, and fought with Ephraim. And the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, You Gileadites are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And the Gileadites took the passages of the Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it was so that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, Let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto him, Art thou an Ephraimite? If he said, Nay, then said they unto him, Say now, Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passage of Jordan, and there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 42,000. And Jephthah judged Israel 6 years, then died, Jephthah the Gileadite, and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead.
He was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. And his brothers came out against him because they couldn't receive the fame that he got and the glory that he got from overthrowing the enemy. So now all of a sudden they come out and they want war with their brother. So then they got smitten to death. All right. Next up is Samson. Judges 13:1.
Judges chapter 13 and verse 1. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah delivered them into the hands of the Philistines 40 years. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the families of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren, and bare not. And the Malachim of Yahuwah appeared unto the woman, and said unto her, Behold now, you are barren, and thou bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine, nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For, lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto Elohim from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hands of the Philistines.
So the Most High is making their son to have a Nazarite, to keep this Nazarite vow, which a razor can't come on his head, and she can't drink alcohol. Okay, go to verse 24.
Verse 24. And the woman bare a son, and called his name Samson. And the child grew, and Yahuwah blessed him. And the Ruach of Yahuwah began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Estel.
All right, go to start at 14:1.
Judges chapter 14:1. And Samson went down to Timnath, and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. And he came up and told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now therefore get her for me to wife. Then his father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all the people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said unto his father, Get her for me, for she pleaseth me well. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of Yahuwah that he sought an occasion against the Philistines, for at that time the Philistines had dominion over Israel.
So he's trying to get this Philistine so that he can keep them close, keep the Philistines close. So when it's time to overtake them, then it won't be so difficult. So he decided to get a woman of the Philistines to I guess pretend like he loved her, but he was being moved by Yahuwah, and this was another strategy letting you know that Yahuwah, when it comes to war, have many different methods of taking down an enemy. And I guess this time he decided to use a woman to bring down the Philistines because they had dominion over the children of Israel. All right, go ahead. Read down to verse 6.
Verse 5. Then went Samson down, and his father and his mother, to Timnath, and came to the vineyards of Timnath. And, behold, a young lion roared against him. And the Ruach of Yahuwah came mightily upon him, and he rent him as he would have rent a kid. And he had nothing in his hand, but he told not his father or his mother what he had done.
Go to, as a matter of fact, keep reading. Read down to
Verse 7. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time he returned to take her, and turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees of honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took thereof of his hands, and went on and eating, and came to his fathers and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken the honey out of a carcass of a lion. So his father went unto the woman, and Samson made there a feast, for so used the young men to do. And it came to pass, when they saw him, they thought that they brought 30 companions to be with him. And Samson said unto them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If you can certainly declare it me within 7 days of the feast, and find out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. But if you cannot declare it me, then shall ye give me 30 sheets and 30 changes of garments. And they said unto him, Put forth your riddle, that we may hear it. And he said unto them, Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness, and they could not in 3 days expound the riddle. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they said unto Samson's wife, Entice thy husband, that he may declare unto us the riddle, lest we burn you and thy father's house with fire. Have ye called us to take that we have? Is it not so? And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou doest hate me.
Now, listen. So, now how many of us? Now, listen. She's making an effort out of fear instead of telling Samson, like, "Hey, these men are saying this." She's deciding to side with these men, who's not her husband. She's one with him now. So, I mean, it's just like, you see the treachery here, and it seems as if it's almost like, when we deal with the spirit of fear, we forget that the Most High, He can deliver us out of anything. Now, true enough, this was a Gentile, but can we see ourselves in this predicament? Like, what would we do in this situation if we was approached by these men? Say if we in the city and we approached by these men and they said, tell us or we'll burn down your household. Now they trying to get us to go against our spouse. How would we operate in that situation? Rather take death?
They would call all their cousins.
I said in this situation, right? So we see that this is Samson's wife, and the situation is this: she's deciding to side with these men over Samson instead of telling him, like, what are we going to do? I mean, they could have got up and fled and went to another land, but instead she decided to be deceitful and try to get an answer out of her husband and not let her husband know what was being said. So what would we do in this situation if we threatened with death? Will we turn on our spouse?
She turned on us, you can't put her away at that point, especially because it's a time of war. Like, the siege, the danger. Like,
True enough.
leave her alone.
Right, but I'm saying, but what would we do in this situation? What would you do in this situation?
That's what I would do.
You would leave her alone. But how would you know?
But you would know.
You would know. Yeah.
If it was the opposite way around.
If they came on you,
Right.
they approach you like, we gonna kill your wife.
Yeah.
Oh, if she don't tell us the word,
Absolutely.
what would you do? Okay.
Yeah.
She's
Hard to
cleaned
say.
up to this man. Everybody said it wasn't.
Right. Wow. Honestly, I would take death, man. I mean, you're talking about my family. At the end of the day, I'm dying righteous. You gonna turn on your wife, your other half, just to please these people? I don't think so. I'm taking death. I'm taking death. That's the mentality we gotta have. Think about it. This is your other half. So you're gonna sell your women and you're gonna sell your wife and your children out. And let them
And your father.
Right, and your father, yeah. So think about this. Like, so I would take death.
I gotta wait till the end of this question. Like, does that show, like, the unfaithfulness of those people towards, like, being in terms of, like, being with one, trying to be and fall righteous before, and be righteous before Ehud, like, in terms of those people, in their ways, and how they would go about things, in terms of, like, how you said, like, you a man of your word. but the Philistines, they were not. And they often did not fall righteous before. So does that show like how those people were, how the Philistines were back in that time?
Yeah, it kind of give you a glimpse of how they was living, showing you that they wasn't living by certain laws that the Israelites was living by. But there's certain people in the world that would take death and would not sell their family out. You know what I mean? Like I know people in the world that would not succumb to that, and they wouldn't sell their family out. They'll come up with a plan and probably get up out of there.
It's just time to go.
Yeah. So, what was we at?
Verse 16.
Verse 16.
And Samson's wife wept before him and said, Thou doest hate me, and lovest me not.
Watch how she lured him in. Go ahead.
Thou hast put forth a riddle unto the children of my people, and hast not told it me, and said unto her, Behold, I have not told it my father, nor my mother. Shall I tell it thee? And she wept before him 7 days, while the feast lasted. And it came to pass on the 7th day that he told her, because she lay sore upon him, and she told the riddle to the children of her people. She basically choosing her people.
Yes.
Still over this. And the men of the city said unto him on the 7th day, before the sun went down, What is sweeter than honey? And what is stronger than a lion? And he said unto them, If you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not found out my riddle.
Israel,
backslide. So he knew. So it was a setup because he was, again, remember, he's choosing this woman to overtake the Philistines and to get from under their dominion. So he set her up. Yeah.
Oh, heifer.
You hadn't plowed with my heifer. Right?
Verse 19. And the Ruach of Ehud came upon him.
The Holy Spirit came upon him. Now watch this.
And he went down to Ascalon and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garment unto them, which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. But Samson's wife was given to his companion, whom he had used as his friend.
He had used as his friend. Let's go into 15.
Go.
Judges chapter 15 and verse 1. But it came to pass within a while, after in the time of the wheat harvest, that Samson visited his wife with a kid. And he said, I will go in to my wife into the chambers. But her father would not suffer him to go in. And her father said, I verily thought that thou hadst utterly hated her. Therefore I gave her to thy companion. Is not her younger sister fairer than she? Take her, I pray you, instead of her. And Samson said concerning them, Now shall I be more blameless than the Philistines, though I do them a displeasure. And Samson went and fought 300 and caught 300 foxes, and took firebrands, and turned tail to tail, and put a firebrand in the midst between the two tails. And when he had set the brands on fire, he let them go into the standing corn of the Philistines, and burnt up both the shocks and also the standing corn with the vineyards and the olives. Then the Philistines said, Who have done this? And they answered, Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because he had taken his wife and given her to his companion. And the Philistines came up and burnt her and her father with fire.
Burned up anyway. Yeah, they end up getting burnt up anyway. And so they end up, for the wicked thing that the father-in-law did, they blamed the whole thing on. They end up the Philistines. They got their corn and stuff like that burnt down, and then they went and took out the father and the daughter, because that was a wicked thing to give his wife away to his companion. So go into Judges 16 and 4.
Judges chapter 16 and verse 4. And it came to pass afterwards that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And Ehud of the Philistines and the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and said unto her, entice him, and see where his great strength lieth, and by what means may we prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. And Delilah said to Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee.
So she's also choosing her people over her lover as well. Right? They're choosing, they're getting tempted by wealth. Well, his wife was actually tempted, well, she was actually in fear for her life. So, but she's getting tempted by wealth and choosing wealth over her lover. Right. Verse, what we at, verse 6?
Verse 6. And Delilah said unto Samson, tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict you. And Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7 green whips that were never dried, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green whips, which had not been dried, and she bound him with them. Now therefore were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chambers. And she said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he brake the whips as a thread of a toe is broken when it toucheth the fire. So his strength was not known.
His strength was not known. They did not know what could cause him to be weak. All right, go ahead.
And Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her,
Wait a minute.
I'm trying to get this money.
So how see what I see a problem, because after she set me up the first time, why are you allowing her to come back again and set you up? So I mean, you know, it's just it's kind of showing a weakness in him as well.
everybody plays the fool. There's no exception to the rule.
Get that lesson on the school.
And Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if they bind me fast with new ropes that never were occupied, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait, abiding in the chamber, and he brake them from off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, hitherto thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with this web. And she fastened it with a pin, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awaked out of his sleep, and went away with the pin of the beam and with the web. And she said unto him, how canst thou sayest I love thee with thine heart? Not with me.
How is she coming back after the fourth time? How is he's allowing this to happen to
It's
him?
something he wants to.
Yes, it's something he wants. He loves her. But after she done brought the enemy to you, like you would think that's it. Like I gotta give another.
Remember, he's so proud and arrogant of his strength. He's playing with this. This is a game to him. I can tell y'all what to do, and y'all can't do nothing to me, because he know how strong he is. And she said unto him, How canst thou say, I love thee, with thine heart is not with me? And thou hast mocked me these three times, and hast not told me wherewith thy great strength lieth. And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There have not come a razor upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite unto Elohim from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak and be like any other man. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she went and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, Come up this once, for he hath shewed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and brought money in their hands, and she made him sleep upon her knees. And she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head, and she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep and said, I will go out as at other times before, and shake myself. And he wished not that Ehud was departed from him. But the Philistines took him and put out his eyes, and brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with fetters of brass, and he did grind in the prison house. Howbeit, the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. Then the lords of the Philistines gathered together for to offer a great sacrifice unto Dagon, their God, and to rejoice. But they said, Our God hath delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. And when the people saw him, they praised their gods. But they said, O God, our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. And it came to pass, when their hearts were merry, that they said, Call for Samson, that he may make us sport.
Now Samson is abased because he gave his secret away to Delilah. And now what's going on now is, we will see, he's going to grow his hair back. But we'll see, go ahead.
And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport. And they set him between the pillars. And Samson said unto the lad that held him by the hand, Suffer me that I may feel the pillars whereupon the house standeth, that I may lean upon them. And the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there. And there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women that beheld while Samson made sport. And Samson called unto the lords and said, O lords, O Ehud. And Samson called unto Ehud and said, O Master Elohim, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once. And Elohim, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, on the which was borne up of the one with his right hand and the other with his left. And Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines. And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life. Then his brethren, all the house of his father, came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the burying place of Manoah his father. And he judged Israel 20 years.
Judged Israel 20 years. He was used as a weapon to deliver them from under the oppression of the Philistines. And so when he died, he had completed his mission by him pushing the pillars and allowing them to fall down on the Philistines. He delivered them from under, he delivered the children of Israel from under their dominion. All right, so that's it. You have questions?
Let me ask y'all a question. All of these men were considered soldiers of the Most High, right? Right? You had these men going straight to war, right? Like the Ak was bringing out their tactics, how they was going to war. But when we look at today, are you on that type of battlefield? So what do you take from what he just brought out? What do you take from these men? Gotta put the Most High first.
Be obedient.
Being obedient, right? So as a good soldier, one has to be able to identify the enemy, right? Who's your enemy today? What'd you say? Yourself? Absolutely. You are your worst enemy to the Most High, or to yourself when it comes to the Most High. So what's your tactics to fight off you?
You gotta beat the flesh with the spirit.
Say again?
You gotta beat your flesh with the spirit.
Beat your flesh with the spirit. I like that. Crucify your flesh. Right? We have to be able to use these men's examples and turn them over into what we're dealing with today. So you identify your enemy, right? What about this world? Is this world your enemy? Yeah. Absolutely. Because what is the world trying to please? Right back to you. Right? After you identify your enemy, now you have to identify who's fighting for you. Are you fighting? Because I recall when we was going through these scriptures, even though these men got certain honor, every time they subdued somebody, it says, and the Most High did. And the Most High did. And the Most High did. So these small victories that you winning in your life, who doing it? Right? You gotta keep this in mind. But as this soldier that you are, fighting this world, fighting yourself, you have to remember that a soldier has guidelines that they have to, right? So if you're a soldier, you got to make sure you're watchful, because a general will be out there and do this. And you got to know what that means. You got to know how to get Exodus 23 and 20 real quick. Let me hit y'all with something a little bit, real quick, because I want y'all to be able to take what this brother did in this lesson, was showing you these warriors, and be a warrior yourself. Because we got a different type of fight today. And if you're not equipped to fight this fight, you're going to lose. These men died with honor. Will you? Exodus 23 and 20.
This is Exodus chapter 23 and verse 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee.
To do what?
To keep thee in the way.
To keep you what?
In the way.
What's the way?
Torah.
The Torah. The first thing that the Malachim that he sent before him was to do was to keep them what? In the way. Keep them in the Torah. Keep them in the law. Right? You can't fight no battle and win no battle against your flesh and against this world without the book, without the script. Right? Read.
Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared.
Now he said, I'll go and do what for you? Prepare a place for you. So now he said, this messenger is going to keep you in the Torah and going to bring you to this place that he prepared. But you think you just going willy-nilly? Remember, we soldiers, right? We on the battlefield, right? Moses, according to the Josephus, took the hardest road. Well, guess what? You on that same path. Everybody else had it easy. The Most High was coming down, showing himself to them. They had it easy. That's an easy road. If he just killed 40 people in front of my face, it's easy enough for me to be scared and say, you know what? I'm definitely going to change my ways. What? He just gave up the ghost because he lied? Nah, I'm straight. I'm rocking. That's the easy road. That's why he said, blessed are those that haven't seen, but still what? Believe. You fighting a different fight. So he says that he's going to bring you in the way, He gonna keep you in the way, take you to this place and what? Read on.
And to bring thee into the place which I have prepared.
Uh-huh.
Beware of him.
Yeah.
And obey his voice.
Who is talking about? Talking about Mashiach, right? That's our general. That's who we salute to. That's who we give praises to the Father through. Right? Read.
Provoke him not.
Uh-huh.
For he will not pardon your transgressions.
That's what we need, right? We need our sins pardoned so we can make it to the kingdom, right? But keep reading. Let's see what he's going to do.
For my name is in him.
Uh-huh.
But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice.
If you do what?
Thou shalt indeed obey his voice.
If you know how to do, then what's going to happen?
And do all that I speak.
Uh-huh.
Then I will be an enemy unto thine enemy.
I'm going to be a what?
An enemy unto thine enemy.
The only reason the Most High was fighting against them people was because they were obeying what he was saying. He wasn't just going to jump in the fight if you ain't doing what he told you to do. That's the reason you got an enemy in the first place. That's the reason why you went into captivity in the first place. All through those judges, we kept going back into captivity because we was going against the general. You can't expect the general to go through and put himself on the line for you if you ain't willing to put yourself on the line for him. We going through small fights in this world. Nothing should be able to keep you from serving the Most High the way that you're supposed to serve the Most High. Right? He said he going to be a what?
An enemy unto thine enemy.
Uh-huh.
And an adversary unto thine adversary.
An adversary to your adversary. 2 Timothy chapter 2. But guess what? You got to do something. Follow his word, right? You on a different type of battlefield. A gun ain't going to get you through this. An underground bunker ain't going to get you through this. We afraid of Iran. Okay. We afraid of this and that. That stuff means absolutely nothing. Because your arsenal at home ain't going to protect you. Just like Samson's hair couldn't protect him. Huh? We always had weapons, but that's not what's protecting you. What's protecting you is the Torah that was given to you by the Most High, by way of his Son. And his Son is the one standing as that angel in the way. But you got to do something. 2 Timothy chapter 2? Pick it up at verse 4.
2 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 4.
Uh-huh.
No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life.
If you go war for him, then you can't do what?
Entangleth himself with the affairs of this life.
You can't entangle yourself with the affairs of this life. Because what does that do for your mission? It puts you off. Takes you off the course. These men had a set mission, a set goal. We going straight. We doing this, we doing that, and we going to subdue the enemy. If the enemy to you is your flesh, why in the world would you do something that would please the flesh and not please the Father, and you trying to fight against it? Makes no sense. That thing that you keep telling yourself, oh man, I need to stop doing this, man. Huh? Everybody got that thing? Well, hopefully everybody don't got that thing. But that thing, right? That's right there that you're like, oh, I keep on doing this. I keep on letting this get me. The thing you keep praying to the Most High for forgiveness for. That's what's going to keep you from dying honorable. That's what's going to keep you from that place that he wants to prepare for you. That thing that you know in your heart of hearts that if you don't get away from, it's going to do you. It's going to do you in. Right? But guess what? You keep going back to it. You keep going back to it over and over and over and apologizing for it over and over and over. You're not being a good soldier. You're entangling yourself with the affairs of this world. And this world is an enemy of the Most High. Read.
That he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier.
You said you're supposed to please who?
Him that he may please him who have chosen him to be a soldier.
Everybody in this room is a soldier at war against the world and against their flesh. He chose you to be a soldier because you're hearing this. Now guess what? If you don't please the general, you're going to be on your own. Who want to go to war without an army? The reason why 300 men were able to subdue thousands was because anybody that's rocking with the Most High becomes the majority. I don't care if it's one person against 10,000. If you with the Most High, you automatically automatically become the majority.
Yes, sir.
But if you fighting against the general by pleasing yourself, you going to war by yourself. You know how people say that you get sovereign, you become your own nation and all that? What happens when you go to war up against America, Mr. Sovereign? Huh? What if they declare war on you, Mr. Sovereign, in their nation? Then what happens? Because sovereign means what? What does it mean to be sovereign? That you're the ruler. You're the one. We got somebody. Right? Read.
No man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier.
Yeah.
Verse 5. And if a man also strive for masteries,
For what?
if a man also strive for masteries,
Go ahead.
yet is he not crowned except he strive lawfully.
Except he do what?
Strive lawfully.
You have to make sure you're doing this thing by the book. You in a different type of fight. You in a different type of fight. Give me James chapter 4, verse 4. I only got a couple more for you, then I'll let y'all go. But I want y'all to be able to take everything that this man taught today as far as these people going to war, and I need you to put it into your own life. I need you to be able to assess the battlefield. I need you to be able to know what weapons to use and when to use them and how to use them. Because if you don't, you're going to lose to the enemy. Read.
James chapter 4 and verse 4.
Yeah.
Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim?
The what?
Know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim?
So whenever you're dealing with things in this world and you know that it go against the Most High, people in this world that you know go against the Most High, and you become friend, and when they say friends, you understand this. We can't choose our family, right? But the most loyal people to you will be a what? A friend, because you can actually do what with them? Choose them, right? So if you become a friend with this world, that means that you're choosing the world, right? Over what though? Over the Most High. So if you have a friendship with the world, then you become a what to the Most High? An enemy. But he told you over there in the law that if you be on my side, then I'm going to be an enemy to your enemies. Right? But you can't go and get in bed with his enemy and expect for him to fight for you. Don't work like that. Right? Read.
Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim? Whosoever therefore will be afraid of the world is the enemy of Elohim.
Whosoever be a what?
A friend of the world
is a what?
Is the enemy of Elohim.
You an enemy of the Most High. Your battle is a little bit different. Your AK-47 ain't the dagger that my man put into his stomach. Your dagger is the one that they call a two-edged sword. Right? That go back to that law. And the one who's heading that up is Mashiach. So if you're not taking those orders from him, and you ain't maneuvering on that battlefield right, you're going to be by yourself. If the army is going left and you went right, you're by yourself. You by yourself. 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Pick it up at verse 50. We ended on this. Okay. I'm feeling a little something right now.
This is 1 Corinthians chapter. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verse 50. Now this I say, brethren, that flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim.
What can't inherit the kingdom?
Flesh and blood.
That means you can't save yourself. Quad was talking about it before, right? You can't save yourself. That means you got to die to the flesh. Walk in the Ruach. The law is spiritual, according to what Paul said in Romans the 7th chapter. But don't nobody want to read the law. Don't nobody want to get engulfed in the instructions on how to war. Who goes to war and don't know how to use the weapon? The weapons of our warfare are what? They ain't carnal. They spiritual. So if you don't know how to use the weapon, what happens when somebody come and use a weapon against you? There's no magical force field up. You know what I'm saying? That's going to stop the enemy. You have to be able to know how to maneuver on these battlefields. Read.
Neither doth corruption inherit incorruption. Behold, I show you a mystery.
Yeah.
We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound. And
for the last what?
Trumpet.
The last what?
The last trump.
The last what?
Trump.
The last Trump. Y'all didn't know this was talking about Donald Trump? Y'all didn't know he the last one that's gonna be. See. Now the problem is people will be out here teaching that, right? And everybody will be believing it, right? See, the book said the last Trump. Come on. It was Obama before. Exactly. Right? Everybody was saying the last time, Obama gonna be the last one. It's going down. And guess what? After that, people started slacking off and falling off of the word. You know why? Because they was engulfed in the carnality of what they thought was prophecy. They was wrapped up in, well, if he the last guy, I better get myself together right now. And then when somebody else get in office, it's like, oh man, we got no time. You ain't got no time. He said man's life is like a fish snared in an evil net. When do fish know that they're going to get taken up? They don't. Don't matter who the president is. It don't matter who America going to war against. You have today. You have today. So get your weapons in order. Read.
Verse 52. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Verse 53. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality.
So he said he's supposed to put on immortality, right? Why would he allow you to be immortal if you can't live properly in your mortal body? Why would he allow you to live and be immortal if you can't live properly in the mortal? What does that show you? If I give you a house, 1 bedroom, and I say, if you take care of this house for 2 years, I'm going to give you a mansion. It's a 1 bedroom, small, tiny, can't move. But if you take care of this one, I'm going to give you this mansion. If I come back, when I'm ready to give you the mansion, and the house is filthy, there's holes in the roof, the room is dirty, the dishes ain't washed, there's roaches running around in here. Why would I put in your possession this mansion? But we, in our minds, think, well, if he just give me that one last chance, and he give me that mansion, well, I'm going to take care of that mansion. I know what I did here. I'm going to take care of that mansion. You out your mind? How many of y'all got bad credit score? Well, you got a bad credit score. You go back to them same lenders. What they look at you and say? Sorry, we'll be sending you an email on why we weren't able to give you that. Right? We tried to get you started off good, right? And you screwed it up. I ain't about to keep giving you credit. That's all this is credit. He ain't here to punish you every day. This is credit. What are you doing with it? What's your score? What's your credit score? If you had if the Most High had what's the credit thing? Credit Karma, Equifax. If he had that, and you push the button and pull up your score, what would it be? Right? Exactly. Read. You were not approved to get into the kingdom.
Verse 54. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the same that is written. Death is swallowed up in victory.
Death is swallowed up in what?
In victory.
We sing the song all the time. But you can't get a victory if you ain't fighting the right way. Read.
Verse 55. O death, where is your sting? O grave, where is your victory? Verse 56. The sting of death is sin, and the strength of sin is the law.
Is the what?
Is the law.
Go ahead.
But thanks be to Elohim.
But thanks be to who?
To Elohim.
Go ahead.
Which giveth us the victory through our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach.
He gave us the victory already. You don't remember when they was going through those wars and he said, Yahuwah has placed the Philistines in your hands. He's already telling you that you won. But you don't do something to go screw it up. Because the only way you're going to get it is through Mashiach. Right? Don't allow those pleasures that you feed your flesh with to keep you away from this victory. I was talking to my wife and a brother the other day, and the question was, what's the difference between pleasure and addiction?
Addiction
It's an access.
is part
You
time.
control
It's
your
like
pleasure. Addiction controls you.
Say it again.
You control your pleasure, and addiction controls you.
The difference between pleasure and addiction is control. Control. It's just control. You have pleasure. So if a person likes to gamble, they like to gamble, right? Yeah, they can go to the casino and they can choose not to go to the casino. But a person that's addicted to gambling can't choose not to. It's just on them. I can't help but to go. And that's what we do with these little bitty sins that we do. We don't have no control. So when you're addicted to sin, there's no way you can get with the Most High. You need to build control. Build control. You gotta kill it. You gotta kill yourself daily. You have to. In order for you to get into this place, in order for him to be an enemy to your enemy, you have to be able to control those pleasures that you are addicted to. You can't give the excuse of, well, Satan just keep doing this. Satan keep just bringing this up on me. Satan just keep, no, you keep.
Look in that mirror and say, I'm Satan.
Say it again, huh?
Look in that mirror and say, I'm Satan.
That's what you might as well
I'm
do.
doing this.
Because you keep putting you in that position. And you're going to take yourself out of the position that he got allotted for you. You have to do the work. I ain't talking about going out and preaching on the streets. I ain't talking about, now I'm not saying that that's not a good thing. I'm not saying feeding the homeless ain't a good thing. I'm not saying spreading the word ain't a good thing. But you need to do the real works. The one that's in the book. Anybody know what the works are? Because everybody scream, they doing the work, they doing the work, they doing the work, they doing the work. When they was on that battlefield, we know what the work was. Taking off heads. What's your work? What are the works that he wants you to do in order for you to make it into this kingdom?
Study and do his word.
Study and do his word? Huh. Obey? Okay. Anybody else? The works. What's the work? The laws? Y'all sure? Love, joy, peace, long suffering. That's the works. What's the work? What is the work? What is the work that he wants you to do? Everybody saying they doing the work. Everybody out here, we doing this, we doing that, we got this, we got that. What's the work? Matter of fact, what if I bring 40,000 people into the truth tomorrow? Did I do the work? Who say yeah? I did the work? Huh? Save everybody and not be a castle. What's the works? Let's see. John chapter 6. Pick it up at verse 29.
6 and verse 29.
Let's see what this is. Pick it up at verse 28.
This is St. John, chapter 6 and verse 28.
Uh-huh.
Then said they unto him, what shall we do that we might work the works of Elohim?
What you gonna do? I'm going and I'm getting 40,000 people in the troop. I'm opening up 25 schools, and we preaching the gospel 3 days out the week. No. I'm going, and I'm buying 45 acres of land. We're going to build houses on it, and we're going to bring everybody over here. Nope. I'm going on the streets, and I'm preaching every day for 6 days out the week. And on the Sabbath, I'm going to just be in the classroom, and we're going to be studying. Nope. What's the work? What did he say?
Verse 29, Yeshua answered and said unto them, this is the work of Elohim.
That what?
That ye believe on him.
Did you do what?
That ye believe on him whom he hath sent.
That's the work. Because you can't do none of that stuff if you don't believe. Ain't no building no schools and no communities if you don't believe. Ain't no getting to no kingdom if you don't believe. Ain't no warring after the flesh if you don't believe. If this is a facade or a fad for you, there's the door. But you have to make sure that this is something that you really believe in. Because if you're playing around with the Most High, you're playing around with your life. You're playing around with your salvation. We at war. And you the one who in the way. Get out your own way. In the words of my brother B, get out the way. He wants you to press forward, and you got a mirror in front of you saying, don't go. You can't become a better you because of you. Stop blaming everybody else in the world. Stop blaming Satan. Stop blaming the captivity. Stop blaming the curses. Stop blaming everything but you. You the reason. Get out your own way and be a good soldier so you can make sure you make it into that kingdom. And with that, I say shalom.
Questions?
So you gonna bring up the left hand part? Oh yeah.
I'll go to the gym real quick.
What was it that you brought up? Judges, yeah, that was Judges 3. Book of Judges.
Book of Judges, chapter 3 and verse 15. But when the children of Israel cried unto Yahuwah, Yahuwah raised them up a deliverer, Ehud, the son of Barak, a Benjamite, a man left-handed.
A man what?
Left-handed.
A man left-handed. So this should automatically make you wonder, why would they mention that he's left-handed, right? Why do they mention? But we know everything is for a reason. Read.
And by him the children of Israel sent a present unto Eglon, the king of Moab. But Ehud made him a dagger, which had two edges of a cubit length, and he did gird it up under his raiment upon his right thigh.
Upon what thigh?
His right thigh.
Upon his right thigh. So he's left-handed, and the sword is on his right thigh. Read.
And he brought the present unto Eglon, king of Moab, and Eglon was a very fat man.
So, what's the hand that's in fellowship?
Right hand of fellowship.
Right hand. So this is showing us that they, in the ancient times, believed that if you was left-handed, it was like you was handicapped. Right? It's like, if you go into this deeper, it'll show us like they viewed this as like being handicapped. So, where would the sword usually go for a soldier? It would be on the left side, right? So when this guy goes to this thing, he penetrates through their defenses because they don't even search him on this side, on the right side where the sword is at. They go to this side, to the left side. But since he's left-handed, his is on this side, on the opposite. Right? Read on.
And when he had made an end to offer the present, he sent away the people that bear the present. But he himself turned again from the quarries that were by Gilgal and said, I have a secret errand unto you, O king, who said, keep silence. And all that stood by him went out from him. And Ehud came unto him, and he was sitting in a summer parlor, which he had for himself alone.
So it was cooling out, drinking some brew wine, Go ahead.
And Ehud said, I have a message from the Most High unto you. And he arose up out of his seat. And Ehud put forth his left hand and took the dagger from his right thigh and thrust it into his belly.
So the way he got the knife in there is because he's left-handed and it's on the wrong side that everybody else's is on the other side. So they don't check him because he's viewed as handicapped, and it's shown that Yah can use anybody to bring forth his will. That's the short side of it. Right?
Is Paul bad? Like, I was reading something that said, like, about the letters he wrote. Like, we couldn't go by the letters he wrote because...
No. Those are people that don't understand what that brother wrote. And the reason they don't understand what that brother wrote is because they don't know the law. That's why I keep telling people, stay out of his book. He tell you himself, I speak to those who know what? The law. So if you don't know the law, leave that man stuff alone. Because it's going to have you all over the place, confused, then a mug. Peter gave everybody a warning. Go to that. Get that joint. So people was doing this, so Peter gave a warning when going into Paul's stuff.
Second Peter chapter 3 and verse 15. An account that the long suffering of our master is salvation, even as our beloved brother Paul, also according to the wisdom given unto him, hath written unto you, and also in all his epistles.
And what?
All his epistles.
Some of his epistles.
All his epistles.
Some of his letters.
All his epistles.
Read.
Speaking in them of these things, in which are some things hard to be understood.
Or what?
Are hard to be understood.
Some things are hard to be understood. Read.
Which they that are unlearned.
That are what?
Unlearned.
That are unlearned. So if you don't study the law, because it seems to not be sexy to study the law, everybody want to jump over to Daniel and Revelation and do all of that stuff, and you don't take time to study the law, you're going to be unlearned. Read.
And they that are unlearned and unstable rest, as they do also the other scriptures.
As they do what?
As they do also the other scriptures.
The rest of the Old Testament. Read.
Unto their own destruction.
Unto what?
Their own destruction.
Unto their own destruction. So I got a brother that always hit me in my inbox, and he say, when Paul say this right here in Galatians, this, what does he mean? I asked him the same question. All 50 times he asked me this stuff about Paul. Have you studied the law yet? No. I don't respond no more. Because you keep asking me the same stupid question. But I keep asking you the same thing. Did you study the law yet? No, I haven't. I don't respond no more. And he wait 2 months later and he asks me again. Paul saying over here, you studied the law yet? No. 2 months later, he come back. I'm going to give you the same thing. Go ahead, sis.
Okay, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Israel only supposed to, like, marry within herself? Like, you're not supposed to go out and marry other nations, correct? Or no?
No, we have to have law on that.
Okay, so, my question is, well, it's kind of like a two-part question because I didn't understand.
Now, a lot of people don't agree with the book, but we're going to show you what the book said and who it's speaking of directly. Now, other people are going to go to some other book outside of the law and say, see it, say this in here. But we're going to go to the instructions, what we supposed to know. Read.
Deuteronomy 7:1. When Yahuwah your Elohim shall bring you into the land where you go to possess it, and have cast out many nations before you, the Hittites,
The who?
the Hittites,
Read.
the Girgashites,
Read.
the Amorites,
Read.
and the Canaanites,
Read.
the Perizzites,
Read.
the Hivites,
Read.
and the Jebusites,
Read.
7 nations greater and mightier than you. And when Yahuwah your Elohim shall deliver them before you, you shall smite them and utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them.
Read.
Neither shall you make marriages with them.
So who is he talking about? He just mentioned the 7 people that he's speaking of directly. Now other people want to come in and say, well, this is talking about Esau and this person. It don't mention them. If you put these other people in there, you are adding to his word. Right? What you got?
I have a question because, as you know, King Solomon, he sinned by marrying wives of other nations, and Nehemiah mentions this.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't marry just only those 7 nations.
Right.
So
Let's get that.
and Nehemiah actually makes reference to that same law. He quotes it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do we go by Neo or the law?
The Most High.
The law.
He's saying that
We
Nehemiah-
can't have no contradictions, right?
Most
So
High
if-
come first.
Huh?
No, just saying the Most High come first.
Right. His law is his character. So is there any contradictions? All right. So we got to know that we must be reading something incorrect, because his law directly states who not to marry. Again, if we add anybody into that, we add it into the book. Now, as far as she was saying, is it wise to go out and marry other people? I wouldn't say that it's wise, but I'm not going to tell you that it's against the law, because I know what his law say. Hold on, get this.
Look at the Kings 11 first.
Yeah, that's what I want.
But King Solomon loved many strange women.
He did what?
He loved many strange women,
Read on.
together with the daughters of Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Zidonians, and Hittites.
Now, at the end of this, when he mentioned these other nations, now he says, and read,
Hittites
and the Hittites, read,
of the nations, concerning which Yahuwah said unto the children of Israel.
so he's talking about the Hittites right here. Not the nations that he mentioned beforehand. He's specifically talking about the Hittites. That's why he separated them from the rest of them. He says the Edomites, the Ammonites, and the Hittites. Because the Hittites is the nation that they wasn't supposed to go into.
That's Kings 11 and 1 and 2.
So again, is it wise? To me, no. But I'm not going to tell nobody it's against the law, because I can't read it. So I know it's going to be a lot of people mad on that chat. They're going to be hitting me up, oh, you sick? No, I go by the law. I don't care how mad you get. If you can't show it to me from Genesis to Deuteronomy, I don't want to hear it.
All right, go to let's do the Nehemiah 13 joint. Nehemiah 13:27. Yeah.
Nehemiah chapter 13, you said 27?
Yeah.
Shall we then hearken unto you?
Start up at verse 26.
Verse 26. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these? Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of Elohim, and Elohim made him.
Actually, start up at verse 25. Matter of fact, 23.
21.
I'm about to say that's what the foot was start.
Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge you about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you. From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath, and I commanded the Levites that they should cleanse themselves.
What verse is that?
22.
Okay.
And I commanded the Levites, and they should cleanse themselves, and that they should come and keep the gates to sanctify the Sabbath day. Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this also, and spare me according to the greatness of thy mercy. In those days also saw I Jews that had
the children of Israel, right? Jews or Israelites, right?
That had married
And
wives of Ashdod,
and who?
of Ammon, and of Moab.
Can anybody point out any of these that we wasn't supposed to marry?
Yeah.
Who?
Moab.
Specifically, that was mentioned in Deuteronomy 7.
In Deuteronomy 23, he mentions that we're not supposed to marry those two either.
So, in Deuteronomy 7, he tells you, don't marry the Ammonites. In Deuteronomy 23, because of what happened, he said, don't marry the Moabites. Right? 7 and 6.
7 and 6 is the...
I mean, not 7 and 6, 7 and 1 and 2. 7, 1 and 2, he gives those nations. And then he said that in Deuteronomy 23 about the Moabites not coming into the congregation.
And the Ammonites.
And Ammonites. But we know specifically, just according to what we read in 7, that this says Ammon, right? Keep reading.
And the children spake, and in those days also I saw Jews that had married wives of Ashdod, of Ammon, and of Moab. And the children spake half in the speech of Ashdod, and could not speak in the Jews' language, but according to their language of each people. And I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by Elohim, saying, ye shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor their daughters unto your sons.
Why did he say this? Why did he say you shouldn't give your daughters unto their sons or that? Why did he say this? Because of the law. Specifically mentioned with the people that he's talking about. Read.
Unto your sons, nor take their daughters unto your sons for yourselves.
Verse 26.
Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these?
So what did he sin by? When he married who? The Hittites. Whoever from the Hittites he married, that's what caused him to sin. Because sin is the what? Transgression of the law. So the law says, don't marry A, B, C, D, and E. Solomon sinned when he married the Hittite. He also sinned in a bunch of other things, like multiplying them to himself, right? We have to mention that Solomon did this stuff, right? But he says that, did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these? Read.
Yet among many nations was there no king like him, who was beloved of his Elohim, and Elohim made him king over all Israel. Nevertheless, even him did outlandish women cause to sin. Shall we then hearken unto you to do all this great evil, to transgress against our Elohim, and marrying strange wives?
Who's the strange wives he talking about?
The woman, the nations that he named.
The ones that he mentioned. Read.
And one of the sons of...
Oh no, that's it on that. So the whole thing about it is they give these people by name. So when it's saying don't marry strange wives because you're transgressing the law, you have to have the law that it's transgressing. Because if you go outside of those specific people that he mentioned, and you see a person marry, I don't know, a Philistine or an Edomite, can you go in the law and show where he said don't marry an Edomite?
No. But you understand, bro.
Can you? This is a simple question.
You can't.
On the chat, and here, can you go in the law and show where you can't marry an Edomite? We ain't saying go out and marry Edomites. But, is it in the law? Because sin is the what? That is what sin is. You can't put sin on people that ain't there.
And again, if you go in that thing and say, you sinning because you doing this, you adding. Flat out, you adding. And if you add, something is going to be added to you. So,
hold on, bro. They brought up another one. Go to Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1. Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1.
Ezra chapter 9 and verse 1. Now when these things were done, the princes came to me saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, and doing according to their abominations, even the Canaanites, the Hits, the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. For they have taken up their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the Kodesh seed, they have mingled themselves with the people of the lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and the rulers have been chief in this trespass.
So, why is it a trespass? Because they was dealing with the specific nations that he told them not to deal with.
And all of these nations, clearly that it just mentioned, are in idolatry and sin, doing abominations. So they shouldn't have been messing with them regardless. It's like even if Israel, a woman or a man is in Israel, and if they doing abominations, you shouldn't be dealing with them.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point. We're not saying go out and marry other nations. That's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is you have to be able to prove somebody is sinning if they marry somebody outside of who this mentions.
So, what do we say then when Paul gets higher levels of understanding from the law, when he says such things as, thou shalt not muzzle the ox? Does God care for oxen? No, but that's for our benefit. Because he's saying that the laborer is worthy of his hire.
So you're saying that don't go back to the law?
Huh?
You're saying that don't go back to the law?
Well, I'm saying that Paul is able to make reference to that law, which, if we want to go by the letter, then how is he able to make a reference from something that's specifically only talking about oxen to then now apply to us?
So what are you asking now? You saying that he's taking this and saying that this is not specifically about oxen, but he's using that to...
Right, he's saying that you're supposed a laborer is worthy of his hire.
Right, that's what I'm asking. That particular statement in itself, does that go back to the law?
It does, but why is he making reference to something that's not? Why not then make reference to the actual law, to the scripture?
So I just gave an example of the Godfather too, and made reference to what transpired in the scripture. You know what I'm saying? It's a metaphor to show something. But that statement itself, or allegory, but that statement itself actually goes back to laborers working on the temple being worthy of their hire.
Then what's that now? Then what's that? Why wouldn't that stop me from saying that the law that says thou shalt not mingle your seeds when you plant them on the farm, to now say that we are not to mingle ourselves with the other seeds of the nations?
Because he was specific. Don't mingle your seed
With this X, Y.
in this. In this, he was very, very specific.
But I'm making a reference though.
You making a reference to what?
Just like Paul did. This is what I'm saying is that that's why I asked, then what do we say about what Paul said? Because
Paul is quoting a law.
and so am I.
But are you using it in its proper context?
Was Paul?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Indeed.
Paul was using it. So that's what I'm saying. How is oxen? We're talking about oxen and not muzzling the ox, right? That's very specific. Don't put a muzzle on the ox while they tread corn. How is that not the equivalent? Because mind you, that's agriculture. That's husbandry. I'm now going to the law saying, okay, here's another law about husbandry. Don't mix the corn. Don't plant corn and apple trees together. And I'll say, well, Israel's not supposed to. You can't plant your seed, a man's seed as his seed. Don't plant your holy seed into another woman until it mixes your seed with them.
So this is. Oh, go ahead.
So did Moses sin when he married the Ethiopian?
The Lord said he will have mercy on whom he will have mercy.
But did he sin?
Did he sin?
Well, is that against the law?
No, because it's not against the law. Joseph's. Who was Joseph's wives?
Did Samson sin?
Who was Joseph's wives? I'm asking you. Who was Joseph's wives?
We know who that was the Egyptians.
So did he sin?
Is that against the law?
No, it's not. I'm showing you it ain't against the law because the law don't say that.
But Samson married the Philistines, which is specifically in Deuteronomy 7.
The Philistine?
The 7 nations.
Let's go back there.
The Philistines?
Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. And Yahuwah Elohim shall bring you into the land, whether they go to possess. And he hath cast out many nations before you. The Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. 7 nations greater than you.
So which one of these is the Philistines?
I can't recall it from the top of my head at the moment. But the Philistines were the same family, the Canaanites, that we went into the land and kicked them out.
But he specifically mentioning exactly who it is not to do this with. Everything is very, very specific. That's why I'm showing you that if you say this, then the northern kingdom is already, Ephraim and Manasseh should be disqualified because they quote unquote half Egyptian. Because Joseph directly married an Egyptian woman to bring forth that child.
But Judah and them, they've been mixing. That you can apply that to all the tribes because we've been mixing.
No, you can't apply to all because he specifically said, "Don't mingle with these people." So I'm gonna just ask you this, and I'm gonna be done with it. Is it against the law to marry Edomite or?
According to what Nehemiah made reference to.
Nehemiah ain't the law. I'm gonna ask you according to from Genesis to Deuteronomy. Can you show in that book that it's against the law?
So then Nehemiah was wrong.
No. I'm saying that you're not quite understanding it.
But this is the thing. Nehemiah mentioned by name the people that were here. Huh? Because he named them. He named it by name.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Okay, let's say that Solomon had, if that was the only sin that Solomon did.
That definitely was not the only sin.
But just to keep it
Gotcha.
consistent,
I got you.
right? Why didn't Nehemiah just say he married the Hittites, which God said? He could have just said that.
He could. No. The reason is because all of the nations that he named was doing wickedness. They was in idolatry. So again, even if it's an Israelite man or woman, if they over there doing necromancy, why would you marry this person?
What's the joint with the Israelitish woman? Who did she marry? The law that was talking about the Israelitish woman. Who did she marry? She was married to an Egyptian. This is in the law time, right? It mentions about an Israelitish woman that had a son that was tripping, and they killed him because he was tripping on his parents. Right? So it mentioned in the law about this Israelitish woman that was married to an Egyptian. She wasn't in sin for being married to the Egyptian. when we looking at this Israelitish woman, this Egyptian obviously was in the camp of the children of Israel, so he was abiding by the laws of the children of Israel.
I'd have to read up on that one. I don't know what you're talking about.
Check it out. Check it out.
I just wanted to say, like, with the Perizzites and the rest of the Canaanites, the reason why we weren't supposed to mix with them is because they were in idolatry. With that being said, we're not supposed to be evenly yoked with unbelievers because there's only two seeds now. It's the seed of the Father and the seed of the devil. And the gospel is for all people. So therefore, if you're following this gospel, therefore you can marry somebody that's following the gospel as long as they're keeping the word.
Yeah, because let's keep it honest. If you marry somebody they look like you, and they Satan worshiper, they don't make it right because they worship. Because they're part of the children of Israel.
They're gonna turn your heart away. That's why most times say don't marry them because they're turning your heart away from it.
Right.
That's
a whole thing because they're turning you away.
You're gonna turn your heart away from it.
Well, I talk about the Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
Yeah.
In the Apocrypha, the first Ezra chapter 8 and verse 69 and 70 goes hand in hand with Deuteronomy 7 and 6.
You got your icon?
You said first Ezra is what?
First Ezra chapter 8 and verse 69 and 70.
Go ahead and read it, huh?
Who's that verse? First, you said first Ezra chapter 8.
Verse 69 and 70.
The nation of Israel, the princes, the priests, and Levites have not put away from them the strange people of the land, nor the pollutions of the Gentiles, to wit, of the Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites, and the Moabites, Egyptians, and Edomites. Precept Ezra 9 and 2.
And 70. Read 70.
Oh, for both they and their sons have married with their daughters, and the holy seed is mixed with the strange people of the land. And from the beginning of this matter, the rulers and the great men have been partakers of this iniquity.
So I'm saying iniquity means sin, as we know. So I'm saying, does that go with Deuteronomy 7 and 6? 7 and 3. That an add-on. But I'm
with
saying,
the ones that he mentioned.
they missing Edomite. What they didn't mention is Deuteronomy 7
That's
and 3.
that's the whole point.
Exactly.
If he takes out Hittites and Jebusites and Perizzites, you will no longer be able to say that's iniquity, unless they're practicing idolatry.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Every one of these spots is actually mentioned somebody from Deuteronomy 7 because it's giving you reference to the people that he was speaking of. But like the I said, it's because their hearts will turn them away. So if you marry somebody that turns you away from the law, you wrong anyway. You know what I'm saying? You can marry an Israelite that'll turn you away from the law, and you will be out of pocket. You know what I mean? But when he mentions transgression or iniquity or sin, you always see one of those nations mentioning that.
It's going to come back to the Lord.
Always.
Just to remind you that the only reason that these nations are mentioned, period, is because they don't follow the Most High. Period. The only reason that he mentioned all these nations is because they do not serve the Most High. That's the only reason why. If they were serving the Most High, they would not be mentioned.
Like the brother said on the chat, he says, 1 Corinthians, where it says that the Gentiles sacrifice unto devils and he will not have you fellowship with them. That is completely understandable because they sacrifice unto devils. So if there was an Israelite that sacrificed unto devils, should you have fellowship with them? No. Right? So when he's talking about that and he's saying Gentiles that sacrificing unto devils, yes, because they sacrificing unto devils. They ain't just saying don't marry anybody, because if there is a Gentile that is amongst the children of Israel that's keeping the laws and they're not mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 7, why not be able to and be in compliance with the law.
And again, we ain't telling nobody to do any of this.
Absolute fact. When we went to war, and we had them women that was a part of other nations, and we went to war with, what did he tell you to do with them?
Shave their hair off.
Shave their head. Right? Do all this stuff, and then you can do what with them?
Make her your wife.
You can't put her away for none of your days because you come from her.
That's the whole point. But that's another nation. That's true. But that's another nation. He's giving you a law on how to do this after war with a whole other nation. So we can't look at the scriptures and say the Most High contradicts his own self. You know what I'm saying? Because if he give you a law and say, this is how you can marry a Gentile after you go to war, we got to be able to look at that and say, oh, well, this is how you marry a Gentile after you go to war. Because if marrying Gentiles in general was against the law, the Most High would be in error. And we know that that's not true.
So we can't go to this boy and say, oh, this right here, Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 8, and you shall not marry an Ethiopian. You shall not marry this person and this person. And if we can't read that, you shouldn't say it, because you add it. And again, if you add something to yourself.
Yeah, hold on, Yehuda, Yasharala. We'll give you the script where it actually gives you the sanction. We don't want to give the heathen all our blessing out. Trust me. We just let you know you can't tell people that they're sinning if they marry somebody that's not mentioned in the scriptures that you can't marry. Deuteronomy what? Deuteronomy 21:12. Deuteronomy 21:12, where it sanctions you to marry a Gentile.
I would start at 10.
Start at 10.
I heard somebody say something about an Edomite too, marrying an Edomite. I'm not sure what time frame it was, but the law says that they'll be permitted after their third generation. So depending on how far along the Ezra's time was, they probably still weren't in their third generation.
Man, that boy say we a bunch of Christians.
Hey, but that's the same
That's
thing.
cold-blooded, right?
Deuteronomy 23, when it speaks on the Ammonites and Moabites, it says,
Bless you, brother.
10th generation.
Bless you, whoever said that. I'm pretty sure you won't be tuning in anymore. Be blessed on your journey. May the laws continue to guide you.
Much success to you, even if you wish us all.
Sooner or later, we all see what the prophet is.
Nah, don't block him, sis. Because if you block him, he ain't going to be able to get this word. And words don't hurt.
Hey, the wife does.
Go ahead, sis.
So, she was not an Israelite, right? She was a Moabite. And she connected with Naomi's son, was it Mishlam or Shelam?
That name.
Yeah, that. So, she is the great-great-grandmother of Yeshua, correct? Was it a sin when that happened? Did he come from a sinful lineage?
Sinful. We know sinful. Israel always been sinful. We know this from the beginning. Israel is a sinful nation. From the beginning.
Again, she's
We carried on the seed.
the grandmother of Messiah.
Was that a sin that it wasn't because the Moabites don't fall under that?
Yeah, it's until that
After a certain generation, though.
Me and him were just talking about that. They say not forever. That's what we can talk about
In
that.
the congregation.
Yeah, I agree with that, right? And then it just show you whether she dropped everything and was following. Yeah,
She's
her
no
own
longer
gods, her own culture,
But if she
everything.
dropped everything, serve
All praises.
Serve
All praises. We got any other questions in the building?
You are a child of the Most High.
Calvin, you got a question? You got a question?
Nah, I was raising my hand when he was asking his question.
Oh, dang. All right. Anybody else? Y'all ready to pray out? So we can eat some good vittles. Anything else on the chat?
He said we bow down to the cross.
Sheesh.
Oh, that's pretty steep. We all come from Seth.
All right, y'all, let's go ahead and pray out, man. Hey, appreciate you, Hezzy, for posting that
We all
script.
come from Seth. Everybody
Don't
else.
be mad. Be nice.
Bro, they carry hate.
We all come from Seth. Everybody, you know. They hate us to death, bro. I swear. Anybody know the Hebrew prayer? Any of the children back there?
Corday. Where Corday at? Corday got it.
Yeah, I don't want to mess him up. He knows what I'm saying. You want to say it? You want to say it? Oh, okay. That brother here, get him.
All right, all minds clear. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Heavenly Father, for putting life into our bodies, Heavenly Father. And we thank you for your Shabbat, Heavenly Father, and for the word that went forth today. We ask, Heavenly Father, that you keep your Torah, Heavenly Father, in our hearts, Heavenly Father, that we do what your word say and what your word says only, Heavenly Father. For we know that Yahuwah spoke to Moses, Heavenly Father. We know that the law holds all, Heavenly Father. And we just ask that we hold on to it, Heavenly Father, and not be as our fathers in the wilderness. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Heavenly Father, for everything that's going forth. We ask that you continue to bless us all, Heavenly Father, and keep us from the wiles of the devil, Heavenly Father. We bless the hands that prepared the food, Heavenly Father, and we bless any commutes and transportation that we will have to do in this ominous weather, Heavenly Father. All these things we pray in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. So be it.
So be it.
Abinu Shabbat Shemayim, Ikadosh, Shenka, Tabo, Makuka, Yease, Ransonka, Baritz, Kashir, Nasha, Bashemayim, Ten Layum, Ayom, Nakim, Ikanu, Uzla, Anu, Et, Ashmatenu, Kashir, Sokim, Anaknu, Bashir, Ashmu, Anu, Wa'al, Tabinu, Nede, Mesa, Ki, In, Hasulanu, Mi, Ra, Ki, Aka, Amamlaka, Wahi Bra, Wati Faret, Ulame, so be it.
I ended up looking up and getting off of work yesterday.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
I was just stabbed. I was supposed to be at work.
Hey, Daddy, you know what
How much they go for? How much they go for? How much you pay for it? Who? He got social media. What's yours? I ain't got any nature. Put your name down. He missing it right here in verse 4 because he makes them not put bread on the water in the way. See, there's something with the language that's going on. I gotta go back and look at it because
Then the ISB killer up and tell you that a child incest. That's what that bastard trying to say. That's what that bitch trying to say.
You said
let me